Okay, so real quickly, my quick evaluation on the whole PlayStation Direct, Sony Direct, the state of play, as they call it. So, what are my thoughts about it? Considering what it technically is, it's supposed to be a Direct. And if you've seen a couple of Nintendo Directs like I have, you know not to expect too much, but maybe one or two exciting things, And in Sony's case, it's no different. It's no major difference. Now, I am going to quickly kind of cover up the underwhelmingness of what I've had to watch and stuff like that by basically making this assumption real quickly. This is a Sony exclusive board only, meaning that it's only released for the PlayStation 4, it's only available for PlayStation, and only Sony is the one that's producing it. So in other words, say for example, Biomutant or Code Vein and stuff like that, those are technically multi-system release technically. So in other words, they're not strictly Sony exclusive, but they do release on PlayStation 4 as well as other platforms. So it's not like those news aren't coming out anytime soon. They will eventually, and this is only a Sony exclusive look. So it's not a major disappointment. But in terms of what I saw, it was very underwhelming. There are some good things to note, though. And that is, for anyone who owns a PlayStation VR setup, you will be satisfied to know that there are plenty of VR games that will be coming out later on within the next year or two, depending. And I'm not going to bash it really, because in all honesty, the VR is a really good setup. It's a really good system. Setup system. I want to call it a system, but it's technically a setup. You got your headgear, you got the motion controls and stuff like that. It's a setup, technically. It's not really a system, because technically it hooks up to the PlayStation 4 system itself. It's a $350 system, $300 depending on if you're finding it refurbished or whatever, system setup that you purchase, which is an add-on to your system. Anyway, point is, there are plenty of VR games that will be coming out later on for people who want more for their VR experience. And that's great if you are a fan of VR. If you love VR, that's great. You'll have plenty. But for me, personally, I'm not a big fan of VR games. I'm okay. I like some VR games. Like whenever me and my friends played some of the VR games. If nothing else, there's technically one VR game that I actually wouldn't mind trying out. I say trying out, I wouldn't actually buy this. Keep in mind, just one game technically. One game for a $300 price VR setup. And that's Moss. So, I like how it looks, and I really like it. Everything else, though, is hit and miss. Like, even the Kingdom Hearts experience. I know a lot of people who are fans of Kingdom Hearts was very excited about the VR setup. For me, I looked at it and I was like, as cool as that would be, it's not my cup of tea. So it's one of those things where it's one of those things that I'm willing to pass over and everything like that. And for my brother, too, there was only one game for the VR that he would want. And that was, I believe, Eagle Flight, if I'm not mistaken, of the title. But again, everything else was more of a hit and miss type thing. Like, to me, VR is more of a party grab game. Like, you can play it for a good day and hang out with friends, joke around and stuff like that. And that's the best part, really. We did that, and it was amazing. It was fun. To do a single-player VR experience, though, I imagine would be a little bit... I'm not going to say bored, but it wouldn't be as engaging as some of the games that I prefer to play. Nothing wrong with VR. And there are going to be VR games released later on. It's just nothing that I was actually hoping for. And really, the only games that we saw that were single-player that is going to be released later on are games that we already knew. Like, for example, we already knew about Days Gone. Not really interested in that, I'm afraid. There is that one other game where the boy draws on the wall and stuff like that. That one was talked about. And then, of course, you have a couple of the multiplayer games, such as Mortal Kombat and Crash Team Racing. So, more or less the stuff we already knew, as well as a bunch of new VR games that'll be coming out within the next year. So, in a sense, this particular state of play did what it was supposed to do. And that was to announce games that'll be coming out within the next year and stuff like that in a very small, short presentation video. Now, my biggest problem, though, was that for it being a 35-minute long video, and I say 35-minute long, it says 55, but technically the first 20 minutes was more or less of just waiting for something to happen. And then they had the 35-minute actual program of just nothing but showing games and stuff. They didn't really go into like a full-on 10-minute discussion like they normally do. They don't have a silly little 5-minute long presentation, theater, theatrical, immersion type stage like they did last E3. That was... oh gosh, Sony. Admittedly, what you did for this one was on par. This was actually on even ground of what we expected. This wasn't I say underwhelming towards my end, but in terms of the overall scale, it wasn't like bad. It wasn't like awful bad. It was just meh. If you had something that I was interested in, and I get it, I can't get everything that I want. You have to appeal to everybody else. But in terms of my specs, it wasn't really anything interesting. For some people, they were still interested in like the Five Nights at Freddy VR experience. I kind of died out on Five Nights since like Sister Location, but then again, I didn't really play any of the Five Nights at Freddy games, so except for that one free one where you got to create your pizzeria and stuff. Because technically, you can just avoid all the jump scares and stuff like that. You could avoid them. And that was the nice part. You could just custom create your own pizzeria. That was a kind of like little fun thing to do. But in terms of like Five Nights at Freddy, I just kind of blew over that part of the fence. Plus it's VR, so again, not interested. But yeah, again, I was actually, in all honesty, I was actually hoping to find at least one game that I'd be interested in. And really, there wasn't. I mean, again, Days Gone, I get everybody else is excited about it, but really, in all honesty, I've lost interest in that. Because it's more or less of the same scenario as, like, some of the games that I just have no interest in, which is a post-apocalyptic storyline. And I just have no interest in them, really. I don't. Not to say that anyone who does have interest in them, you know, Walking Dead series, Last of Us, and stuff like that, I understand if you like those type of games. They're not my games that I prefer. You know what type of games I prefer. I prefer the JRPG, RPG, action-adventure games that involve sword fighting, fighting giant monsters, and stuff of that nature. Basic simplistics, but in a sense, it wasn't bad, so that's just my overall thoughts. So, anyway, to Sony, I'm kind of glad that you did do a small direct, because if this is what you would show at E3, this would have been really, really bad. In fact, it would have been an understatement. You would have not have survived long. You would have had to face multiple criticism towards your end. And you would have had to rely on other third-party developers just to cover up on top of it. This was just strictly your particular system. This was particularly the games that were released strictly from your branch system and everything like that. So, for a direct, it wasn't bad. Although, I really hope that the next one you do, which will probably be at least, if they do another one, it'll probably be in August or September. I'm hoping to hear different other games that I would like to play. Like, they didn't even talk about Ghost of Tsushima. That's the weird part. They didn't even talk about that. And according to rumors, they're saying that Ghost of Tsushima will be released sometime this year. I don't think it will be. In fact, I still think we have another year before it does get released. But if they do plan on releasing Ghost of Tsushima this year, they have to have like a release window of at least 3 to 6 months. So somewhere between June to September, if they don't release any information on Ghost of Tsushima, we probably won't see a release until 2020. Just saying. But anyway, this was just a quick little video I wanted to go ahead and kind of push out there and stuff. Just kind of give my thoughts and opinions on State of Play. Again, wasn't really that fascinating, but it was enough to kind of cover up with the lack of stuff that we have gotten from Sony themselves. So, anyway though guys, that's it for this video.